Welcome to Chamber Chat. I'm your host, Shawna Harris, the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. The Conroe Chamber is a nonprofit 501c6 organization and is designated as a 5-star accredited chamber by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the chamber is to promote and advocate for businesses in the Conroe Lake Conroe area. Chamber Chat is our monthly platform to share upcoming chamber events, learn more about our members, and learn from our members as they share their expertise with the community. The Conroe Chamber is located near downtown Conroe, and you can find us online at conroe.org and, of course, on all social media outlets. Get ready because we have a great show planned for you today, and we will be right back with our first guest. All right, thank you for joining us at Chamber Chat. I'd like to welcome our guests from Lone Star Family Health. We have Courtney Galle, the Marketing and Communications Manager, and Karen Harwell, the CEO. If you'd like to tell us a little bit more about yourselves and how you came to be with Lone Star.
Sure, I can go first because mine's short. So thank you for having us. I started last year in May, so I'm fairly new. I was thinking about that coming in today, thinking, gosh, the year has gone by so fast. It seems so crazy. But yeah, Karen actually snagged me away from the chamber. So I worked for Scott for another whole week before I came over to the health center. So.
Wow, almost a year ago.
Yeah, almost.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm Blythe. So my story is a little bit different. I've been with the health center. This will be my 10th year. So I came in 2012, and I started out in a director of finance position. A couple years later, found myself wearing the CFO hat. A couple years later, there was a leadership change in the organization, and the board of directors placed me in the position I'm at today. So I've been the CEO since 2017, so going on 5 years. It's been quite a ride.
Sure it has. So tell us about what makes Lone Star Family Health Center different than what a traditional clinic would be or hospital, because I think it's one of those, it's a gem in our community that not a lot of people know about, and know that you don't have to be on any kind of subsidy to use those options. And I think it's a story that, you know, we always talk about it, is how we get that out more, and hopefully today some of those people we can open their eyes a little bit more. But can you tell us what makes it different and unique and all the same at the same time?
I know, it is funny because there are a lot of similarities, but it's almost a flip. So I came from for-profit healthcare. So I can tell you just from kind of the business or the administrative standpoint, it's a complete 180. So rather than fitting patients into a model that you can make financially beneficial, you are truly trying to figure out how you can be the most accessible to anyone that needs to access your services. So for Lone Star, although we do target those that have a lot of difficulty accessing healthcare, so that's going to be your individuals that don't have their own transportation, have limited income, don't have the 8 to 5 schedule availability, childcare, can't leave work, those types of things. Although we target those individuals and try to make our services as accessible to them as possible, like you said, Scott, we don't actually limit our services to anyone. So as long as, you know, we can offer a price that you can afford on a self-pay basis, or you've got insurance that we accept. It's not limited. Some people I've heard out in the community, you know, what zip code do I need to live in? Because you might think, oh, if there's subsidies available, or if this is a grant-funded clinic, maybe I need to live in a certain area or have a certain income or have certain insurance. It's really not that complicated, actually. It's come on in.
Right. I think some of the community gets programmed.
Yeah.
When, you know, through some of maybe the subsidies of the United Ways and how they look at things, it does matter, and they're trying to, and unfortunately, work the system to make it beneficial for them and their families. And so the welcome mat out there that you guys have, just more people need to understand that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the doctors that work in our facility, and not just at Lone Star, but other clinics like us, we're called community health centers, right? So there's no incentive for a doctor to have a specific diagnosis, to perform a specific procedure, and that can create a lot of problems in some other environments where there is another motivation to have a certain number of, you name it, x-rays or lab tests or whatever.
Quota, if you will.
Correct. Yeah. That just really is absent from our environment, which is really nice. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what services, like a traditional clinic, that people might think, a doctor. But I know you guys do a lot of other things, focused on women's health, and then also from the dental side and different things. Can you expand on that for us?
So that's actually something that is fairly dictated to us. So you will not become a community health center. You won't get that federal support to provide deep discounts to your low income individuals unless you actually provide the required services under that program. And the required services are focused very heavily on screening, prevention, what you would think of in terms of primary care. So the basics: are you going to do well child visits? Are you going to do immunizations? Are you going to cancer screening? Do cancer screenings. Preventive dental services is one of those areas. So it's very unique to the community health center model to walk into a building and have a medical doctor right next to a dentist, and that's what you'll find at Lone Star. We actually go a little above and beyond what's required in the dental area because we do a lot of dental treatment. But dental is a required service, behavioral health is a required service, and then actually women's health. So in addition to doing things like well woman exams and mammograms, the cancer screening on the women, we also are required and love to do prenatal deliveries, postpartum visits. So we kind of, that full pregnancy care is under that umbrella as well. We do a few things. So just like I mentioned with dental, we kind of go above and beyond. We do some things with anticoagulation. So folks we have a large Medicare population that actually comes to the clinic. They might be on a blood thinner, and they can actually get their management done by one of our pharmacists in-house. We've got in-house x-ray, in-house lab. We've got a nutritionist on staff. And then we're actually going to be adding dermatology. Breaking news. Courtney's like, wait, what?
I thought you were going to mention another thing.
We're going to be adding some dermatology. So we haven't gone heavily in the direction of specialty services. That's a whole nother animal. But there are some larger health centers like Lone Star in the Austin and Houston and Dallas area that have kind of started to venture into specialty care. You have to be very careful because you get into a whole another set of cost you're constrained on actually what you can do. But if you can find really strong partners in a specialty market that have an interest in actually providing those services to people that maybe can't pay top dollar, you can forge some really cool partnerships and provide some specialty care. So it's pretty neat.
That's what I love about it. I always kind of say it's a one-stop shop because you can go to your primary, you can go to your dentist, you can pick up your prescriptions if you're in Conroe or Huntsville, you can get your labs, x-rays, you can see the nutritionist. I mean, you can just do everything in one place. So, yeah.
So what does Lone Star Family Health Center look like now than compared to January 2020?
Oh my gosh.
So
favorite topic.
How did
not as different as I would like. People are still wearing masks in the clinic. I hate that.
Right. From the operational standpoint.
January 1st, same. Yeah. No. So we actually 2020 was crazy. So that was the first year we jumped into offering telehealth. So we had to kind of modify some provider schedules and some space so that we were set up to kind of conduct the nurse and the doctor in the clinic, but the patient's at home. Or we may have a physician that's a little more specialized that maybe operates out of our Conroe facility, because Conroe is kind of our big mothership headquarters. So we may have a patient that can't reach Conroe, but they can easily get to Huntsville or they can easily get to Willis. They can communicate via virtual or phone format with somebody in Conroe. So a little bit of that. And up until last week, we had a full-fledged COVID drive-up operation going on in Conroe, where, you know, our staff got used to it, but we hijacked, you know, 50 parking spots or something like that, and new signage, and, you know, directing people through the parking lot to park, and have folks go out to their vehicle to swab them for COVID. We've actually, the demand's gone down so much, thank goodness, that is now just part of our normal clinic operation and our normal clinic. So it's starting finally to feel like we're getting back to 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Those are the biggest
you talked
differences.
about locations, and I know back a few years ago, I was on the advisory board for your organization. They were talking about expansion because of just accessibility, transportation opportunities. Because, you know, transportation, it's a habitual issue for those that have limited resources. So what do those plans look like for you guys moving forward? And because as people continue, we just had our economic outlook, Lake Conroe outlook. You both were there. You saw the things happening and what's coming, what's already come. We're kind of all behind the curve already. You know, what does that look like for you guys as you expand within our community?
Yeah. So we normally tackle expansion. We kind of go in two different directions. We can add facilities to accommodate more individuals, or we can expand our suite of services. So I would definitely say we're going to be on the facility side of that. We're already in the midst of facility expansion, and that's going to keep happening over the foreseeable future. So we've expanded by adding our Huntsville clinic, opening it right in the middle of the pandemic, which was so much fun. But actually, we built it for some growth. So we started out with one provider in Huntsville. We're now up to 2 full-time providers. By the end of this year, we'll be at our 3rd. And so that'll be nice, because that'll be the largest of our satellites, actually. Our Conroe facility, we're pretty, we have a nice big building, but we've been operating kind of at full capacity in Conroe for quite a while. And then we're also expanding in Willis. So everything we've been focused kind of northward. What it looks like for us when we look at expansion is we run numbers, but we run numbers that are probably different than what your typical business would be looking at, right? So we're like, where is there a lack of PCPs? Where are there no doctors? Or where is there a really far commute to get to a healthcare provider? And where do people that have insurance no one takes, or people with no insurance, where do they live? That's where we need to be. So there's there's the best of both worlds when you go north. There's a lot of need, and there's a lack of services, and couple that with population explosion, and it's like, I mean, we don't even, hate to say it, Courtney, but you don't really even need marketing when you're opening up a new site, because the moment we're open, we're full.
Yeah. What's your capacity in Huntsville? You said you had 2 and you're going to be at 3.
Yeah. About 4,000 people can kind of come and have a PCP, and that can be their health home, right? Wow. So it's between 1,200 and 1,500 per doctor that we put out there. One thing that's really interesting too, especially as you get out into rural communities. So there used to be, and there's still one clinic open, but there used to be a rural health clinic system kind of in the north, like Trinity, Madisonville, Huntsville. Even they came down to Willis. We actually occupy the space where the rural health clinic was in Willis at one time. Very mid-level focused. So I mean, physician assistant, nurse practitioner. They're not putting physicians out there because it's very costly to do so. But we always have a 1-to-1 is our lowest ratio, meaning physician to mid-level. So we won't open up a clinic where there's 4 or 5 nurse practitioners and the doctor's actually in Conroe just signing off on charts. Yeah. As you get into these populations in these communities, especially if folks have lacked health care and just kind of, I access it only when I need it, or I just go without otherwise, it's so important to have a physician out there because their need is higher. They've got more complicated health issues, got chronic conditions. So, sorry, I got totally away from the expansion point. But really important also is we have been in the same facility in Conroe ever since we were one clinic. So we were Conroe only. And then we actually opened in Spring, opened in Willis, opened in Grangerland, opened in Huntsville, and Conroe has remained the same size. So we will actually be expanding Conroe. We got a grant to add onto our footprint in Conroe, and it's basically the expansion is going to be about 20,000 square feet, but it's going to be about 10,000 square feet of just central office administrative space, and then about 10,000 square feet of clinical. It's going to mean we can do some cool things with women's health in Conroe, because right now we've just kind of got all patients mixed together, but we're going to be able to create a clinical space in our building that's, you know, we can celebrate babies and mamas, and it'll be really fun.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I understand you have another celebration coming up with an anniversary.
Yes. So starting next month, well, really this year, but we're launching it in April, but we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary. So we opened in 2002. So we have some really fun things planned throughout the year on social media. We're going to have like a VIP reception in August during National Healthcare Week. So look for that. Look for a really cool post coming up on April 1st. And then, again, some Throwback Thursday stuff about the history of the health center on our social media. So,
So a year-long celebration.
yes.
See, she even surprised you.
I know.
That's why
I
you
like
need the
Throwback
marketing,
Thursday. I love it.
the marketing person. I mean, you can't really live without that. So.
Thank you. I
We got
appreciate
about
that,
5
Shawna.
people that have been with us
Absolutely.
since the start, so
awesome.
we got some good
Yeah.
throwbacks.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
So what's the biggest thing you guys need? Like, what if you were able to say, hey, you know, we need this, or is it awareness? Is it, you know, what is the
Yeah.
biggest thing? And as you continue to grow for the next 20 years, so when you're celebrating, I won't be sitting here, but when you're celebrating 40 years, what does that look like, and what do you guys need as your elevator spill for, you know, that congressman or that elected official or just the general public?
Right. We need no more public health emergencies. Please.
I'll take note.
Yes, whatever you
Yes,
can do,
write that
whatever
down.
you can
See
do
if
with
we
that.
can handle that one.
And this has been what's nice about you know, adding Courtney to the team, and I couldn't agree more. But when we sat down and we did start talking about, you know, kind of some of that long-term stuff, it is really awareness. We are always so busy and so crazy that we could always use more partnerships and talk about more creative ways we can expand while keeping our costs low, because of course, you know, we don't want to pass those costs on to the patient. But it's awareness.
Yeah.
And setting the right expectation, you know, for people. So something that took us probably the first 10 years of our existence was just kind of making sure individuals didn't come to the clinic expecting that it was free care. And that was really, really tough, because we really are not a free and charitable clinic. We can, you know, we provide services to literally, we get 100,000 visits a year, and but everyone does have a financial part of that relationship. So deep discounting, but not free, and that's tough. So yeah, I think just the more people know what to expect, what we can do, what we offer, where we are, that's what I think we've struggled with probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole thing again for me coming on board, is letting the community know about our brand and what we offer, where we're at, and all that great stuff. So yeah.
And COVID just
we can say she is everywhere. 'Cause I
She
see
is
her
everywhere.
and all the different things. So I mean, you can definitely tell. I mean, I was at a board meeting earlier with HCA, Matt Davis, and those guys at Conroe, and they're talking about it goes back to awareness, and you know, and when you're showing up and telling, you know, and just mingling with people and talking to people, there's always those opportunities. So, any last minute things, anything that you want to share, is there any like a testimonial story that, you know, that could resonate with somebody that you could share, and we can end on that?
So I don't, you know, I wish I had I should have brought a patient story. But one thing I'll end on is just to make note of our residency program. And I know you're aware, we also, while we're seeing patients, some of the individuals in our clinic that are providing the patient care are actually medical student graduates that are in their 3-year practice, becoming a family, before they're licensed and board certified as a family medicine physician. So we just got awarded an expansion grant for our residency. So we historically always trained, I should say we started out training 21 resident physicians. We bumped that over a 3-year period to up to 30. And HCA Conroe, they are the inpatient training facility and our partner in this, so we don't do it alone by any means. And so we've just, over the next 3 years, we're going to take that program from 30 to 36. So when you're at Lone Star, you may not know the difference. It could be a nurse practitioner, it could be a physician assistant, it could be a physician that's been in practice 20 years, or it could be someone in training. But the cool thing, what we love is we have a great recruiting. We recruit our own, right? So we train and groom these individuals in their residency for 3 years, and then they join the practice. And if they don't, they're starting their own practices or they're joining hospitalist groups in the area. So if you just go through the yellow pages, if anyone does that anymore, and you look at the family
my
medicine
parents do.
doctors, in the area, they've mostly all made a stop along the way in Lone Star. So we love contributing to the health workforce of tomorrow because it's going to be, we're already facing shortages, not Lone Star, but the industry is facing healthcare shortage, and we help to curb that. So that's a good feeling.
Sounds like you guys have a lot of great things happening, and people can find you at lonestarfamily.org.
That's right. And on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Nice. And don't forget, we have an e-newsletter called The Pulse. So sign up for that if you want the latest information about us.
Right in your email.
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much
for
being
you.
Here. Do you have anything else?
I just want to say, we're very fortunate to have you in your organization and our community. I had to correct somebody the other day. They were talking about our mini medical center that we have up on the north side of town, and they were listening to everybody. And I'm like, you forgot.
Thank you, Mr.
Lone Star
Harper.
Family Health Center. So
Right.
get the plug. And they're like, you know what? I did. It just doesn't. I'm like, but they're there. They're a part of the whole solution for us. So.
Yep.
All right.
Well, thank you guys.
Y'all.
Thank you.
And we will be right back. All right, welcome back to Chamber Chat. I am your host, Shawna Harris, Director of Marketing for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber, here with Scott Harper, President for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber. And we are joined by Melody Chandler, Director of Development with Big Love Cancer Care. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and how everything started.
Sure. So Big Love has been serving families who have children diagnosed with cancer in the hospital for the last 15 years. We can't talk about Big Love without talking about Brooke. Brooke Phillips was the founder, Jessica and Cheney Phillips' daughter. She was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 3. They're from Angleton, so they are here in the Houston area. After a very courageous 2-year fight at Texas Children's, Brooke passed when she was 5. While she was in the hospital, though, she was always caring for the other children. She always wanted to bring them toys when they were crying and stop and pray for them, even while she was sick. And so she just had the most loving, generous spirit. And so the Big in Big Love stands for Brooke's incredible gift. And her parents just wanted to honor her memory and really be there to help meet the most urgent needs for these families as they go through this time.
Wow. Amazing stories, and sometimes a lot of adults can learn from children, especially at such a young age.
Yes.
So how did you get involved with this organization?
So I discovered Big Love last year. I used to own a fitness company for about 10 years. So really love doing meaningful work that impacts people's lives. And I found out about Big Love, and I just knew I had to be a part of it. The first thing I learned about was our Wish Bag program. That really spoke to me. So every week, Big Love goes into the hospital rooms and asks the kids, what are 5 things you want this week? They get to make a list of what they want. Our volunteers shop, and then we deliver it 48 hours later. And that to be a bright spot in these kids' day, as they're going through this, was really what first attracted me. And then I found out we have like 19 other programs that we do. So yeah, we really, a lot of our board is made up of families who have either lost children or who have surviving children from cancer that Big Love Cancer Care provided services for. So we really know the heartbeat of these families and what their real needs are, and that's really what we focus on. We've always stayed true to that mission. We don't spend any money on research or awareness. It's all just to meet the most urgent, tangible needs of these families on a weekly basis.
That's awesome. And what's your reach? You had mentioned that they were from Angleton, and how did it get into Montgomery County and kind of call Montgomery County home, if that's correct?
Yeah, so we're actually in 8 hospitals now
Okay.
across Texas. Started here in Houston, like I said. We are at MD Anderson here in Houston, Texas Children's, including the Woodlands and the Katy satellite campuses. For those satellite campuses, we fill up the toy closet. So every time a child gets a poke or a prick or an infusion or something, a treatment, then they get a ticket and they get to go to the toy closet to get a toy after that. So they love that. We also provide things like gas cards and meals and things like that to families who may have to travel every day for weeks and months to those satellite campuses. We also are in Austin, so we're at Dell Children's. We serve families there. Down in San Antonio, we're at Methodist. And we just entered 2 new hospitals. In Temple, we're at McLean Children's. And then in San Antonio, we had a family call us from Brooks Army Base Hospital, and they actually serve all the different branches of the military. But this mom's, she had a 3-year-old little girl who was in the hospital. Her husband is deployed, and she called because she found out about us, and she said, there is not one toy in this hospital. And so we were able to not only provide for her family to be able to give their little girl something to do while she was there and give her a bright spot, but we now actually offer services for that hospital now. So we're really excited about launching into just helping more families.
Right. You had mentioned earlier about having other programs that this program did. What can you expand on that and why? Because you kind of lit up when you said that, because you're like, oh, I found out there were so many other things that they did.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I never thought about before coming on board was if you have a child who's sick in the hospital only feeds that child. They only feed the patient, right? So they can't feed everybody. So you have to leave your child to go get your food. And if you're there months on end, well, not only do you not want to leave them, right, but it becomes very expensive. So every single week we go and we stock the refrigerators and the pantries on the cancer unit floor so that families can just run down and grab food. We also deliver 136 meals every Friday to Wallace Tower, to Texas Children's. They're the HEB, the Simply Made meals, those quick meals. So we do that every Friday. We also have a full circle of care. So one of the gaps in service we found was if a child passes, there is not a program. Once that family leaves, then they, not only have they lost their child, but they've also lost their entire support system, right, for where they have been. So we now have a program called Sib Strong, and it's for siblings of cancer patients. So it's group therapy, it's grief counseling, things like that we're offering not only to the parents but also to the siblings. So kind of filling that gap of service, and we want to continue that in all of our hospitals. Eventually we're hoping to be able to fund that. So just really thinking of the things that they would need. Our other program is called our LIFT program. One of our other programs is Love in Fragile Times, and this is for the more urgent needs. So, for example, we had a little girl who was 11. Her grandmother is the primary caretaker, and she's a single grandmother. They've been in the hospital for like 5 months, and they were facing eviction a couple of months ago because she's been out of work, and she's the only one. There's a lot of single parents that are there with kiddos that don't have the support. So we were able to pay her rent so that she did not get evicted. So things like that we do on a monthly basis. And then the wish list the budget for the wish list gets bigger for those LIFT requests for if there's a terminal diagnosis or, more urgent needs.
Have you partnered with, just thinking out loud and trying to make connections, because that's what the chamber should be doing with their extra time, is, the Ballard House. Have you heard of the Ballard House or the Rotary House? So those are 2 organizations. I'll make sure you get the information, but those are organizations that house the families of the patients in that kind of care.
Oh, great.
And so we just had a presentation in the Rotary about down in the Woodlands, and they have contracts with a couple of different apartment complexes, so they have actually availability. So one of the things we need, a lot of people, instead of replicating services, is joining forces and being able to understand that there are options.
Absolutely.
And being able to do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get that.
learn more.
So as the director of development, I was a vice president of major gifts for another organization, and so the joke is the nonprofit handshake is this. Tell me how you guys, what's your approach when you raising money and resources for your organization? And because every organization takes a little bit of a different approach to that, but having something like this that's so personal when you're talking about kids, I think that just heightens the awareness to a new level. What's y'all's philanthropy approach? And then kind of lead into, the events that you're going to do. We're going to talk about, I think, one of the events that you have coming up as well. But if you can kind of lead in with what's y'all's philosophy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of our supporters are families that we have provided service for in the past. So like I said, the board is made up of a lot of families that we've served. And then a lot of those people are business owners and their companies have gotten involved. So we have support that way. We also partner with private donors. We have a monthly donation program that we encourage people to give just $25 a month. It's like 80 cents a day to be able to fill a wish bag once a week. So that's the budget for our kiddos. So it's very tangible and you can see where your gift is going. We have a new initiative this year called Kids Helping Kids, and it's really to help children in elementary school or middle or high schools learn about how important it is to give back and give them the opportunity to help other kids in the community. So we are hoping to partner with at least 10 schools this year that would allow us to come in and just there's several different ways they can participate, but having that go on not only, will be very helpful for us, but also really to teach those kids that the importance of serving others and helping. So that's kind of a few of the ways. And then, like you said, with our events. So we do several events throughout the year. We have a Santa Dash at the end of the year. It's a fun run. Our first event coming up, though, is actually here in Conroe. This is our first event in Houston. It's happening May 6th, and it's going to be at Blackwood Gun Club. So it's a clay shoot. It's our 5th annual clay shoot. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we still have a couple of opportunities for sponsorships if there are any businesses interested, and we definitely have room for more teams to be created. So we've got about 50 slots left, I think, for shooters.
Awesome. So what's the structure? How many people are on your team? And it sounds like you continue to grow. Your organization grows. How do you keep up with everything?
With 8 hospitals and doing weekly bags for children, it would seem like you have a pretty good team behind you.
We do, and we have a wonderful team of volunteers as well. So we are always looking for new volunteers who would like to, get behind what we're doing. There are only 7 of us on staff. We have very low overhead. We don't have any sort of brick and mortar offices, so we all work remotely. Keeping all of those expenses to a minimum. But we've got a gal in Alston and then one in San Antonio, and then the rest of us are here in Houston. Okay. So we couldn't do what we do without the help of our volunteers for sure, because we have a large network of volunteers and we have trainings for them. Unfortunately with COVID, we're not able to go inside the hospital, so that it has affected and impacted our volunteers because they really like to engage with the families. However, there are still opportunities like for the shopping, for the wish bags, and then delivering things. It's all curbside, so the social worker or child life will come downstairs and just take the items from us. But yeah, we definitely rely heavily on those.
Any indication when that will go back to normal?
We saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and then the Omicron variant came back, right. And so kind of everything got tightened down again. I don't know that I think that I heard yesterday there's a few things that they're starting to open up for volunteers, but as of this point on those cancer unit floors, we are not able to go in just yet. So hopefully soon, because I think for the patients too, it'll be nice when they can get back into the playrooms and doing those. We used to do parades down the hall and be able to just really kind of break up the monotony of being in the hospital, right? So
you need that social contact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As it continues to grow, is there national implications, or is this going to be a Texas regional type operation, or is the Lord blesses you guys, you'll just kind of take it from there?
I think that's probably the approach. As opportunities open, we certainly don't ever want to close the doors on opportunities. There's always the Dallas DFW market that we're not in, but right now we do kind of have our hands full with this. But we were able to go into McLean and Brooks within just a couple months of the request being there. So we're really excited about that opportunity and always welcome new opportunities as well.
Sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just the phone call from one parent.
Yes.
rolled all of that out.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
great.
Just don't get in the way of a parent on a mission.
No.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Absolutely.
And we make things happen at Big Love.
Right. So what's your biggest need right now? If you were able to, bump into somebody new, like what would you say? And somebody say, hey, what do you guys need? What's right now? Obviously money is a need for all nonprofits that are
Sure.
trying to provide their mission. But is there anything specifics or other items that people might not think of? Well, I'm not sure what to do with this, or how does that work with your organization?
Yeah, so if we always are in need of gift cards for like Uber Eats, DoorDash, gas cards, because those needs are consistent across the board, no matter what market they're in all of our markets. So, doing a drive at work, there was a mortgage company that did a drive for us, a toy drive. Everything's, the toy closets always need to be refilled. There's a lot of different opportunities. If your organization wanted to get involved, you can reach out to me and I can certainly give you a list of what we're looking for, volunteers as well. And right now we really want people to participate in our clay shoot, because I think that's going to be a lot of fun that day. And then we'll have more throughout the year.
And how many teams or openings did you say you think?
So we've
you
got
have?
about 50 openings left
Okay.
and they're broken up into teams of 4. So you can either sign up with a team or you can sign up individually, and then we'll put you with a team. It includes breakfast, lunch, drinks, a T-shirt, and all of our events are a lot of fun. So.
And that's on May 6th.
It is May
Okay.
6th. It's a Friday.
Well, make sure you get that information to us as we continue to, different ways of how we're marketing everything that we do from our chamber members. I'm a nonprofit guy, so I always try to make sure that our nonprofits get to see as much of the resources as we can, because I know it's just an extra post here or extra shout out there. It could be a difference in finding somebody that can, help in amazing ways.
Yes,
we can get that
absolutely.
on the calendar. Did I, and you may not know, but what is parking per day at like MD Anderson or Texas Children's downtown? It's like $18 a day.
It's something. It's up there. I don't know the exact number because I'm not in the programs down
Sure.
there. But yeah, it's exorbitantly expensive.
Talking
And-
about financial
yes.
expenses that don't quit, like
Exactly.
gas or food. That's,
Yes.
I can't imagine what parents pay just to park
Yeah.
every day.
And your focus is on putting one foot in front of the other in your sick child. You don't want to have to think about that. So what we want to do is make that burden a little less and give
Yeah,
those parents
for sure.
room to just breathe. So
Great.
Yeah.
Well, any parting shots or anything else that we haven't covered that you would like to make sure our audience hears?
Well, we would love for y'all to follow us on social media. We're on all of the platforms. There's a volunteer training coming up March 31st. It's on Zoom at 6:30 at night if you're interested in becoming a volunteer in any of those markets. And then just check us out on the website. Yeah.
So we can find you at biglovecancercare.org.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your contact information will be in the show notes.
Wonderful.
So,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having
We will
me.
be right back. All right, welcome back to Chamber Chat. I am here with Scott Sears, owner of Mortgage Solutions LP, and Joe Forrester. Thank you. They are both residential mortgage licensed originators. And thank you so much for being on the show and coming to speak with us today. So if you want to give us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into this business, and you can follow up.
I'm Scott Sears. I'm the owner, per se, of Mortgage Solutions. I've been in the business, I think, 28 years now. I quit counting for a while. We do residential mortgages all across Texas. We're also licensed in a couple other states, Oregon, Washington. We've got a little office out there that we work out of. Generally speaking, we're talking about residential mortgages that are sold as mortgage-backed securities to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and VA. I really enjoy. One of the rewarding parts of the job is, for me, is I really enjoy working with people and coaching them up and making sure they really understand the process. A lot of people are really confused when it comes to getting mortgages and intimidated. And I try really hard to make sure that they understand, the principles of the mortgage, what it takes to get loans. I have my standard philosophy of making sure that they understand the components, like, what it takes to get the mortgage and why I think they're going to qualify, so that they can go ahead and feel empowered and feel like they understand the process enough. And I believe that people that are comfortable and understand the process and why we need all the ridiculous documentation that comes along with the mortgage, that I think that's essential to building their confidence so that they can go out there and they can buy a house. And especially in these times right now where the supply doesn't meet the demand, we try to do the extra effort to make sure that I call it, I like all my borrowers my job is to make sure my borrower wins all ties. If you get competing offers, I want them to think that we're going to be better and faster to get to closing, so that our client gets the deal.
Joe?
Yeah, my name's Joe Forster. I've been working at Mortgage Solutions for about 2 years now. Great place to work, seeing a lot of different clients and problems here and there, but there's always people around that I can ask, for a little bit of help. One of the things, we're located in Conroe, and what's the restaurant, Scott?
The Whistle Stop.
Whistle Stop.
Okay.
So if you'd like to come by and just talk to any of the loan officers to find out, about mortgages, where you have questions and things, come on by and see us, visit with us anytime.
So you've been with Mortgage Solutions for about 2 years, you
Yes.
said, but how long have you been in this industry, this business?
About 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow, okay.
I had lost my job because of COVID, and so I went and studied and got my mortgage license.
You're in the financial side.
I'm a retired CPA. I've been a
Okay.
CFO of various companies over time. And it's really kind of fun and interesting to see what you have to do to get people qualified.
Yeah.
So Scott, tell us a little bit about your 20-year journey of in this realm of business and what you've seen, what's changed, and then kind of go through what's happened since the pandemic. Maybe first off, what technology has done to your business, and then the pandemic, and then what you see kind of moving forward. Because that's a loaded question, but I think it's important for people to understand too. Small business owner, where'd you come from? What does that mean? And then kind of how you've been able to adapt to these changing times, if you will.
Well, that's a good question to ask. After I graduated from college, I got my MBA from University of St. Thomas. I have a bachelor's degree from University of Houston, and I kind of did a couple different things, worked for banks, and I was in auto finance for a little bit. And eventually I kind of found my way. I was going through graduate school, and at that time interest rates went from like 12 to 7, and a guy in my class was a loan officer, and he asked me to go out there and take a couple loan applications for me and give me a couple $100 just to go ahead and take the loan application. He was so busy, and pretty soon I found out that I really enjoyed it, and believe it or not, I actually had I was grooming myself. I wanted to work for Enron at that time. That's dating how old I was, and I wanted to be an analyst, and eventually I wanted to be a bond trader. And but I kind of morphed into, and I actually got a job offer, but I was making more money, and I was more successful in the mortgage business. And I stayed in the business. I remember when we first started off, it was a three-page application and one disclosure. And then as things develop, it was more and more disclosures. And, it's right now, I think I counted it up, doing an FHA or VA loan. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of disclosures that say basically the same thing. But now it's 53 pages of disclosures, and our good faith estimate went from 1 page to 4 pages now. And all this was tried to simplify the business and to benefit the consumer, to make them understand better. And I think that it's more intimidating now than it was before, to get a loan. So the technology has changed quite a bit. I mean, I remember when I first started off in the business, our phone was ringing off the hook, and then I remember listening one day, and it was really quiet, and I'm going, why is it so quiet? Because we're so busy. Why? I like the activity and the sounds and everything like that. People just quit calling anymore. Everything's done by text and email now, and it's a quieter technology that comes along with the business, and it's changed quite a bit. I mean, every year that I've been in the business, I think I know 90% of the business, but the business changes by 20-25% every year. There's more changes. Back in 2008, we were, there was a lot of subprime loans where people could get a loan without any of the heavy documentation, and now that's all changed. You have to show an income stream for any borrower that they have. And every once in a while you run into somebody. I did a doctor's loan that had worked for a clinic here, and he was a W-2 employee. And then when that clinic shut down, he had to start his own business. He had those patients and he carried them on, but now he didn't really have an income stream anymore because he wasn't a W-2 employee and he didn't have a 2-year history. I run into people all the time that, they have substantial assets and retirement funds and stuff like that. Maybe they haven't started taking out money out of their retirement account. They want to keep accumulating it. And, maybe they have 10 times what they want in savings as they have, but we still have to be able to document that they have an income stream and they have to start taking a distribution. So, and that's part of what my job is explaining to clients that understand why, they think, well, I've got, 5 times or 10 times more than what I'm borrowing. Why don't I automatically qualify? And it's just because of the new rules. All these things are sold as mortgage-backed securities, and they have broad stroke rules that you have to go ahead and it's got to fit that square peg into a square hole and a round peg into a round hole.
Right. So how did COVID make you adjust your business? So a lot of things went online. Technology had to be enhanced in a lot of places because it's so much easier to sit down across from somebody, have somebody explain something to you and show you the pages. How did that adjust the last couple of years for you guys, and how did you guys manage that?
I don't think it affected us like how we do business as much as it some of the things that affected the business. Like you had a lot of appraisers, and typically appraisers are semi-retired people. Maybe they had a career and then they want to do appraisals on the side, and it's a side business for them, or they want to supplement their income. And I don't like to generalize, but a lot of the appraisers, they were really intimidated by COVID and didn't want to go into an occupied house. Some of them just said it wasn't worth the risk to interface with the public, and that was a problem for us for a while because they just wouldn't go in. We couldn't get the appraisals on time. And some of them supplemented, some of the lenders, they knew it was a problem with COVID, and, there were some rules that allowed us to do appraisals without going into the house. It was drive-by appraisals, take a picture of the house, stuff like that. But that's kind of gone away now because, there are some loans that we can do, without an appraisal and all, but it's not up to us. All these loans are fed into an automated underwriting system, and it tells you what your prescription is, what you have to have, in order to get the loan done.
Right. We sold a house during COVID, and we ran into the fact that, we've always had to show the last 2 recent pay stubs, and that was been it. Well, this time with COVID, the week before we closed, we had to verify that. And I was at an organization that we went on mandatory furlough. And so it happened to follow. I didn't have 2 weeks. I said, if you wait until midnight on this day, I'll have 2 weeks. But at the time they were asking for it, there was a gap that I didn't get a paycheck. And so it was interesting. Just a lot of different things kind of popped up, and how people were doing, doing mortgages, and how they were doing the more research. Seems like they were doing a lot anyway, and then it was even heightened because of COVID and people not verifying or being able to keep a job, and those type of things.
Yeah, you're speaking from experience, and that's happened a lot to us too. Also, that we have to go in there. We have to do a verbal verification of the borrower is still there, because all the furloughs and everything like that, and so it's kind of intrusive, because we have to. The thing is when we're calling to verify your employment, we can't call like your boss's cell phone. We have to call a number that is associated with the business. And all these people are working remotely, yeah. And it's kind of hard. And yet it's, we're trying to follow the rules, and we don't make the rules. Right. And it can be challenging at times.
Yeah. What we're seeing too, like now, and just some people that I know personally, and then others that I've heard talking about it as well, is these multiple offers that they're getting for their houses. They feel like they're in the driver's seat, and then sometimes the appraisals don't come back because people are getting over asking price. Mm-hmm. And what in today's market, if people are looking at buying or and selling and buying another house, what's your toolbox of tips that you can tell people to watch out for, and why maybe they should use you, and what are those things, the little things you're able to do to make sure that you follow with them step by step? Because some people, they get online, they can see that they can do it all online, but still the vetting still has to happen. It's just not the personal relationship that you can offer, I think, from your perspective.
Well, that goes back to what I talk about, having our clients win all ties. And what we try to do, there's a difference between an approval letter and an approval. And a lot of our clients, what we do is we run these through, we send them to an underwriter, and we actually have them approved subject to finding the house. But when it comes to the property, there's not much that can do that. I have several clients. I have a client right now that overpaid for a house, and he knew it, and it wasn't going to appraise. And he won the deal because he said, he did not make, part of your contract is you got to get approval for the financing according to those terms. And if the house didn't appraise, then, he had to put more money down, and he was putting more than 20% down. And he said, he wrote into the contract that the appraisal, he couldn't cancel the deal on account of the appraised value. Mm-hmm. And so obviously he won that tie.
Right. What about anything new for veterans or first-time homeowners? It's been a long time, not from the first-time homeowner on my part, but any new thing and opportunities and loans that people, if they're looking at buying a house for the first time, is there anything new, or is it pretty much stays status quo?
I would say there hasn't been a whole lot of change. A lot of people talk about first-time home buyer programs, but sometimes you can find somebody you can get like gifts from somebody, and a lot of time it's an exchange of, you're not really getting any money for free. I don't know anybody that's given any money free to homeowners. It's usually a trade-off for a higher interest rate in exchange for a down payment. Veterans have always been able to qualify, with zero down. And one of the things that I always look for is that if a veteran has any disability, a lot of time the biggest problem about getting a VA loan is that you pay the upfront VA fee is 2.3%. Okay, and maybe it's 2.15. I don't. But if you buy a $100,000 house and then you pay the VA funding fee of I think it's 2.3, then that's $2,300 dollars, it gets added back to your loan amount. So you're upside down in your appraisal on your house already because you owe more than you paid for it. So, if they do have any disability, then a lot of times the VA will waive, and they've been really generous about waiving the VA funding fee, which makes it more attractive and that's really works out well because you could buy any, you can, it's not limited, you can actually get a jumbo VA loan. So I've had and the interest rate's great.
Right. So what are you seeing now? They've said, depending on what news station you listen to or who you're listening to, that there's probably a couple different adjustments when it comes to interest rates. I mean, it's been historically low the last few years, but they're starting to look like they're getting ready to start going up. What's the pulse in your industry now of where you think that they might stabilize? Or are they going to spike? Because wasn't long ago when I was talking to my dad, I mean, they were happy back in the day with 12%, 10%. Mm-hmm. What's your pulse now with where things are and where they might be headed? I know there's a lot of uncertainty there.
Well, I mean, the Feds basically came out and said they're going to have 6 different raises this year, and we've only been through 1, and we're already looking at 30-year fixed in the high 4s. Mm-hmm. Long-term, I try to, I don't know, what is our federal budget deficit? It's like $23 trillion or something like that. When the rates go up, I mean, the rates for the government has to pay, to pay for our budget deficit go up too. And so we have a vested interest in our government, to keep those interest rates low.
Right.
And I do think that, until the economy slows down, so it's a little bit adjusted, that we don't have, dollars chasing goods, right. That I think that you'll see, I've heard a couple people talking about they could drop extremely low. And to me, I feel like I'm building up my pipeline here. If I do somebody right now for 4.75, or I'm paying, they're paying 4.5, then, all those clients, they come back to me when rates come back down again, and, and I can refinance them. Mm-hmm. And, we track those type of things, and we look for opportunities to where it's a win-win for, the client to take advantage of the lower interest rates. My advice to my clients are, don't pay points, don't overpay for the mortgage, because I don't think that, I think that, you may be looking at, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. I don't see that, anybody who's paying 4.75 is going to be in that for life.
Right.
I do see that in the short term, act now, do it now. If you're going to buy something, buy it now. 4.75, it may sound pretty attractive after 2 or 3 months.
Right, absolutely. Well, we're getting close on time. Is there any, other things you would like to tell the listeners, or, a quick commercial about who you are, what you do that you haven't already talked about, or any tidbits that you would like, Joe, in the last 2 years, what you've learned and what you've seen, anything you would like to just kind of close this show out with?
Well, I've worked with some self-employed people, which is, we can handle those pretty well. The other thing, there's a lot of people now looking for investment homes, rental properties. We can take care of that for them.
Okay.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here. That was a lot of information, and I am just so thankful that there are professionals that we can contact like yourselves, so I don't have to remember or know any of this stuff. I can just say, please help me. And if they want to reach out to you, they can do that at mortgagesolutionsLP.com, and all of that information will be in the show notes. And thank you so much again for being here. We'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
All right, welcome back to the show. We have a few announcements and events coming up. On April 14th, we have our morning mingle at Whataburger Grand Central. That starts at 7:30 a.m. On April 21st, we are having Fun After 5 at McNutt Funeral Home. Join us there at 5 p.m. And a big announcement, Taste Fest, we've missed for 2 years, is back. We're having a big launch party on June 2nd. and the event will be tastings all month long for the month of June. You can find out more information on our website at conroe.org. I'd like to thank everyone that tuned in. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it with us. Chamber Chat is open to all members, and we invite you to be a guest on an upcoming show to share your business news, events, or expertise with our community. Visit us at conroe.org for more information and tune in next month.